Hey guys, just a few words here about creating your thesis statement in case you're having any kind of difficulty. I just wanted to clarify a few things as you're putting your thoughts together on an index card. Remember, this doesn't have to be anything elaborate. You're essentially handing in an index card that will have on it your name right here and then your single sentence thesis. Thesis really means main idea. Obviously, statement means sentence. And in that sentence, we want to have a topic that is debatable, a topic that you need to convince someone of, one that's not too obvious. You want to have the 3 poem titles in it and the name of your author. Okay, so if you can do that without using personal pronouns like I think or I am or you are going to see or we know, get rid of all those personal pronouns and just make it as succinct as you can. So you've done some research already. You've consulted some critical sources and you've seen what the scholars have to say about your author. Now you want to figure out what you can explore in 3 different poems that your author has written. Sometimes these critics may have mentioned the poems, sometimes they haven't. You might find poems that will match what you've researched, and that's totally fine. But at this stage, we want to narrow it down to the 3 poems. Maybe you've read articles that deal with your poet's emphasis on war, or the American dream, or nature, or freedom, or any one of these things. Brotherhood, innocence, love, faith, whatever it happens to be. So now you want to start thinking in terms of a topic that you can debate. For example, a thesis that's very weak and is one that's too general. It doesn't really need to be proven. Maybe it's incomplete or, gosh forbid, it's inaccurate in some way. These would be examples of bad thesis statements. To simply say that death is present in these 3 poems by Poe is really not giving yourself anything to argue about. There's nothing to debate. It's a fact. There is death that's present in his writing. Another example of something that really is not debatable would be to say that Langston Hughes focuses on race in Mother to Son, I2, and Theme for English B. We can't really argue about that. It is what it is. It's a fact. So if you don't really need to convince someone of it, then it's probably just too broad or too general or too much of a fact. So how do you create something that's good? I basically went over the reasons why. There's nothing to convince your reader about. There's nothing you can argue in favor of. Death is present. Race is a major topic. Done. So how do you create a thesis that's worthwhile? All right, well, think about one of those general topics, like race, or death, or war, and sort of play around with it a little bit based on the 3 poems. Then you can maybe come up with something that's a little more opinion-based. For example, if you've read Spirits of the Dead and The Raven and Annabel Lee, you know that while they all deal with death, maybe you need to convince someone of the struggles of the people who are left behind after death. Those struggles are what you want to focus on. The struggles of this narrator who has to deal with his lost love, Lenore, and the narrator in Spirits of the Dead, and what impact the death has on living people. Same thing with Annabel Lee. So now you've taken death, but you've narrowed it down to proving that people who are left behind, i.e. those who are living, are going to be immersed in some sort of struggle. So a strong thesis is based on a good, intelligent assessment of the 3 poems. And it's structured in a way that the body paragraphs of your paper, will be able to follow it logically. And it's meaningful, and it's powerful, and it's going to be in need of convincing because you can argue it. So one last comment, though. Could you use what a critic says for your theme? Absolutely. We just have to give the critic proper credit for it. So let's say you did some research and you came across this on one of your notes. Love that has undergone suffering affects a person forever. And you really like that. And you see how you could apply it to this poem and this poem and this poem. So if you're taking the words of that critic, just give them credit by putting their name in parentheses afterwards and then closing it with a period. So giving proper attribution means just that. Give the last name of that critic in parentheses after you've delivered the quote. And then on the works cited page, I would be searching and searching and searching, and I should find an entry under the name Patton, and then I'd be able to see, where this came from and all this kind of stuff. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with using a critic as your thesis statement. But the key thing is you must give them credit for the idea. Okay? So once again, on a single index card, you're just going to write out your thesis, put your name here, and then write your thesis statement. Be sure to include your author's full name, as well as the 3 titles of the poems. No personal pronouns, I, me, my, you, our, any of that. And please don't announce what you're going to be doing. I am going to explore Innocence and Robert Frost poems. No. Stay away from that announcement. Okay? So think about your thesis statement as something like a lighthouse. And what do lighthouses do? They guide ships to safety. Your lighthouse, your thesis statement, will be the unifying force, which is going to guide you through all of your research. Okay? Any questions? Definitely let me know. Otherwise, good luck. And let's see those really awesome thesis statements when you bring them in next week.